Hi, and today's video is going to be about how to take a Nyckelharpa apart. I'm asked this question all the time about sticky keys, sometimes they stick, and really it's easy to take a Nyckelharpa apart, certainly on the top rows. So I just want to do a little quick video for taking the harpa apart, and I've been asked to do a video specifically on this Nyckelharpa, so I'm using this Nyckelharpa to take apart and show you how to kind of scrape it down and hopefully unstick some keys. Just as a slight kind of caveat, it is easy to take it apart, but be very careful, very methodical, and it is easy to scrape too much, so this is just a guide, so don't take everything I say as complete gospel. You need to find out what works for you, but I basically want to show people that it's quite easy to take these things apart and you shouldn't be frightened of just taking the top row off. So here we go. So I've put the Nyckelharpa on the floor, it can't fall off it then, and I've got a few items, first of all, that you need. You need an HB pencil. This is actually a 4B pencil. The more B you get, the better. Screwdriver, and also I've got some files. You can also use a knife, but I prefer using these files. So I'll get to those later. First thing to do is to take the instrument apart. Now on this particular one you've got some screws, so I'm going to unscrew these screws very carefully, and then I'm going to put them so that I can find them again, and I'm going to put them in order. So there's a screw here, so I'm just laying those next to each other, like this, on the floor. I'm actually going to move this Nyckelharpa back so that I can put the keys down where you can see them on the camera. So now I've got this bar here, this just lifts off. I unscrewed it, I'm going to put it on the ground here. And then this is the really easy bit, these keys then just come out. They should be numbered, but if they're not numbered, I always make sure that I will take them out and put them on the ground where I can see them in order. So it's best not to get them muddled up. So yes, I'm just taking them all out one by one and sticking them on the floor here. Now at some point you get to the point where I can't take any more keys out because you reach another row. So if you need to get further, then you can keep taking them out. If you can get to the key that you want to, if you need to shave some of these ones down, then kind of job done, don't take it apart any further. But I'm actually going to strip this down a bit more. So there's another screw. I put that very carefully and safely so that I can find it again in the right order. So I take this apart like so, and then there's another screw here. So I've just laid them down, and this just comes out like this. So again, I'm going to put it down where I can find it, and now I can actually take the keys out in pairs from this point, so you can see I've now got two keys. I'm not going to separate them, I'm just going to put them next to the other ones on the floor here and keep going down like this. Now at this point I've reached the third row of keys. Now the bottom row can be a bit trickier, so I'm not going to go any further than taking that off, but there is another screw and you can actually take the whole key box off, but if you don't need to go any further. Now the key that I want to talk about getting to is this B flat here and the B natural. Now I don't actually have a problem with the sticking keys on this one, but this is where the pencil comes in. Pencil. If I had a sticky key at that point, I would take one of my files and then I would have ascertained before we'd got this far where the sticking is happening. So if I thought it was sticking here or on this side, then I would file down just on the shoulder where it touches the wood file. And then the pencil. I then make sure that everything is covered in lots of graphite. So I'm going to take a key so that you can see what I'm doing, and on the shoulder here Just lots of pencil, lots of graphite. So there we go, so I'm going to graphite on both sides. I'm going to graphite on the bottom just in case that's where it might be sticking. So the top is probably not likely to, and also at the other end. So I'm just covering it in pencil. It's the graphite that's the important thing that makes it nice and slippy, slidey. Like this. So I'm going to put that back where I found it. I can graphite here. Now if you've got an instrument that has got poking through, now I don't want to tip this too much, but you can see these are tipping, they're poking through the end. You can also get in here and put graphite inside here without taking too much apart. You can take this top off here as well to help release it, but I don't want to go any further than this in this particular video. And then if I wanted to get to this B flat, I can actually get my pencil in through the synthetics. Now this way you don't need to take any strings off. If you took the strings off, there is the likelihood that the soundpost would fall over, and that's not the end of the world, but I don't know how to set them, so it's something that I need to learn. So you can also pencil anywhere you can get the lead in where you think the key might be sticking. So without taking this B flat off, I am now actually able to get the graphite on to all of these bits. Can you see if I use my left hand? So I'm with graphite, and also with a file you can just file down the offending part that might be catching. If you have a look at it, see, is it catching anywhere? Can you see any rub marks, any places where the varnish might have rubbed off? So now we've got a semi taken apart Nyckelharpa, and we need to put it back together again. So I'm going to just... It's not as scary as you might think. First of all, I'm going to put these paired keys that I took off back in place. You sort of need to give them just a twist and make sure they're back in the right holes. And so that's one, that's two, and here's the third one. So there we go. All the keys, and I've made sure all the holes, they're all back in the holes. So they're just ready. And then this piece that I took off, so it normally sits upright like this, but I'm just going to roll it onto its side. I sort of get it underneath the keys, line up the shoulders, and then just bring it back in. Then because I've kept the screws in the right order, I know that I'm just going to screw this back in, and then screw this back in. It's good to keep them in the place so that you know which screw came from which hole. Put this back in like this. So now that's back in, and now I'm going to put the rest of these back in place. So all in the right order. Now there is a video of me doing this at high speed where I've taken the Nyckelharpa completely apart. I will put up a link on this video so that you can click through and have a look at that video too. It's not particularly helpful in learning how to do it, but it's quite fun to watch. So there we go, all the keys back in place. I take this bar and then screw it back in again. And I'm going to make sure I don't over tighten it, because sometimes an over tight top bar can also keep the keys sticking. And if I needed to, I would put graphite underneath this as well, so anywhere that you think pencil lead would help. So there we go. So that's sort of stripping the first 2 rows off the Nyckelharpa down to where the 3rd row kicks in. It's a little bit trickier on the 3rd row, but you can keep stripping it down. So don't forget about, anytime you can get into one of the holes here, there, here. So that's now this Nyckelharpa put back together again, having stripped it partially apart. So it's always good to take apart a Nyckelharpa because it's not as scary as you might think. So that's now this Nyckelharpa taken apart and put back together again. But not necessarily tuned.